So we're starting the community PR triage for Puppet Hiera Factor on June 30th, 2015. And I'm going to go through the tickets that we have are ready for merge. I think these were all pretty straightforward. There was the non-ASCII user comments with Ruby 2.1 that we talked about yesterday. Which was seven. Yeah, so he signed the thing. And Peter, is it okay if I put you down to merge that? Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. I will also review it when that's done.
Cool. All right. The -H flag for Solaris. Ask the contributor to update the subject that was empty previously. And he said it is the -H flag is available on Solaris 10 and 11, so I think that should be good to go. One thing I wanted to add are the time information. All right. This looks good to me. It's, yeah. All right, that's something I can merge that after this. And that was 4040. Right. And static compiler, this was about threading the environment through various places, and that seemed good. We're just threading the request through, which is a Puppet indirector request. And at the end, we're providing the environment when we go to request file content. I asked the contributor to update one of the commits with the bug number, which he did. But one thing I'm wondering about now that I think about this is whether file metadata and file content requests are environment specific. And I believe they are for things like mounts, right? For plugins and facts. They're going to be in modules, right? That's going to be specific to an environment. But I wonder if that's true for all Puppet URLs. Like if you have a custom mount, you know, the Puppet master serving as a file server. In that case, I'm not so sure. Need to think about that.
What happens if the file contents can't be found in that environment?
I think it just 404s. Storing content. Yeah, that's kind of Oh, you're saying here, if it can't be found here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it just returns nil on the, because this terminus on this side, on the server side, is going to be the local, I forget if it's the direct file server or just the file server, but it's one of those that doesn't go through the networking layer, right? So it's, I think that just returns nil, which would be good to have a test for. Comment to that. I'm going to bump this one down. So next one I have up is the HTTP support for the file type. I believe all of the blockers for that have been 3748 have been merged. Whoa.
Do you want to just ping Felix to rebase this? And...
Maybe it looks like it was merged.
Which one? So we're talking about 3748 PR. Right.
Yeah, I don't understand why this shows this.
Oh, I think Michael was just commenting that one of the dependent PRs was merged.
Ah, okay. Okay, so now that this...
It obviously needs to be rebased before we can merge it, but...
Yeah, right. This one is merged too. Okay, so I'll just comment on here. Felix, I don't know if he put it on here somewhere, but he said if... Anyways, he knows he has to rebase and he's ready. So I'll just leave a note. Okay. All right. So that's that. Here. All right. So add a list command to file bucket. 3943. All right, this was one of the things that we were talking about. Sounds like we should, how about we put this into our next sprint and see if,
Yeah, I need to functionally review it one more time before merging it in. So yeah, we could pull it into the next one.
Okay, the next one is about, excuse me, is PR 3952. This is the Augeus change to allow these, I forget what they're called, but to describe values, Augeus values, and to write rules based on paths that match. Let's see. One thing I was hoping to get is an update to the commit summary, because right now it's not super clear to me how you use this, or like what's a realistic scenario for how this works.
Yeah, the commit message is a little sparse.
Yeah. I'm sure it's obvious for people who know tons about Augeus, but I think for the next person that has to work on this, it would be good to have some more context.
Yep.
So I'll leave that, my note in there, and let the author follow up on that. Right. All right. Sorting FS tab entries. Is PR 3953. Yeah, I was hoping Felix was going to be on to talk about this. I think we've. Sorry.
At least when Charlie reviewed this, I think we were in consensus that the way that Felix had it was the appropriate way of doing this for a basically a global provider setting, having a resource that configures the mount resource. And yeah, I don't know what else we would like to discuss with Felix over this.
So you think it's ready to go?
These are all comments when I was trying to re-implement the sort on them. I think so. It is opt-in, so that's good at least. So we won't unintentionally break people, but if they do have file system dependencies, we can automatically handle that now in Puppet with this change.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how about we bring this or put it into the next sprint? We can.
Yep, I think that's fair.
All right, add a diff command to the file bucket. It's PR 3961. Yeah, so we were talking about how it's now explicit about either it's explicit requiring two arguments, either an A and a B checksum or an A checksum and a B file to compare it against.
Yeah, I need to double check that and make sure that we can swap those parameters around and just treat it as the left and the right, like any other diff tool would use.
Mm-hmm.
Either one of those can be a file, or I guess two files. You just use diff for that. But if it's a file and a checksum, it can be in either the left or right position.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I'll look into that when I review this, since I didn't do it yesterday.
All right, sounds good. Um, hey, Felix. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome back, Felix. We were just discussing, just before this one, the sorting of FS tab content, PR. I think after discussion and Charlie's review, I think we're all fine with having the option being controlled through a resource type. And we're going to pull that into the next sprint to review and get that merged.
Cool.
All right, so next one is using the proxy when fetching latest for pip packages is PR 3984. And so currently the Puppet pip provider uses XML RPC to make the network request. And Spencer was saying that he talked to the pip, what did he call them? The tool masters, I think, and said that they would actually prefer that we were using the JSON API because it can be cached in Fastly. So I asked him if he would be up for changing the pip provider to use the JSON API instead. It would make it easier to backport it to 3x and merge forward, because then we could take advantage of Puppet's HTTP connection handling and specifically the proxy support that it has. It wasn't clear how to do that previously with the XML RPC part. It seems like we'd have to re-implement a bunch of logic to handle no proxy and authenticating proxies and that sort of thing. So he's going to give that a try and see about doing that. All right. So the next one up is optimize and secure safe POSIX fork, which is PR 4027. And it looks like he added a test for the
The test still calls dir entries, assuming that both proc and proc self exist. That's not going to work for OS 10 at the bare minimum, but I don't know if all proc file systems implement a self. I don't know if that's a Linux only thing or not.
Yeah, he added a if dir exist business, so it'll only get run on platforms where that does exist.
Yeah, I got to scroll over. I see that.
That's
doesn't really exercise that code though.
Yeah, I would think you would put a stub on this and have it return a fixed set of things.
Right. I think that makes much more sense than stubbing the call of IO expects new for each file descriptor that we're expecting.
Well, don't you still need to do this part?
Yes, you still need to do that part, but I think we should just have a few file descriptors, including 0, 1, and 2, I'd like to have in there actually,
Right.
rather than deleting it out, because we're not supposed to see a close for that and stuff, though, so that if we see them, we fail.
Yeah. Okay.
Mute my mic while I'm chewing on it.
All right. Peter, can you leave comments on that ticket?
Sure, I'll follow through on that one.
All right. He also has it targeted at 3x, which was surprising to me.
I mean, this isn't a bug fix. This is just an optimization. I don't think that really warrants being included in a 3.8 release.
Yeah. So retarget for stable or master?
Without knowing exactly how much perfluent this is, that's a hard thing to say.
Right.
I guess it's not just perfluent. It's also the fact that we are potentially leaking some file descriptors.
Oh, right, because you were talking about some platforms having more than 256, right?
Yeah.
So retarget for stable?
Yeah, I think we could make the case that this could be a security matter.
For 3x?
Yeah, by potentially, forking and having the child process see those file descriptors. But
Yeah. Yeah, as long as I'm a little nervous about the change just because it has, it'll affect everything. But yeah. Yeah. All right. We'll leave it as is.
Okay, so I think most of the fires have been extinguished.
All right. So the next one
And then,
is service type should not retrieve ensure status.
what's the problem?
So what happens is,
It probably was RVM.
let me bring up the PR here. So it's PR 4038.
Right. And it was more confused about on which didn't use.
Hold on.
Okay, cool. I'm looking at it. Yeah, managing RVM and bundler and I have a better understanding of what not to do with these tools. Yeah.
Sorry, I'll be just a minute here.
And a lot of things and stuff like that. You just gotta sit down. Figure it out. So.
Okay, so the problem is when the service type runs, if you're not managing ensure, it will still retrieve the current ensure state.
I don't see either.
And so in looking at the commit, he's copied and pasted code from the superclass public type retrieve. And that version of the code does this, where
My suggestion was
figure out when we're in the offspring parser if we have a Puppet release object and then just empty it, do the thing where we set it to an empty array. Otherwise, don't.
Right, I don't. Oh.
Okay, let's pair on that after I check in on this one last ticket.
Try to have to determine whether it's
Yeah, I think I have a pretty good idea. Okay, I do want. Really, no imagining I do. We can get in there.
Okay. So the thing that surprised you, so his PR changes this line by overriding for the service type only, overriding the retrieve method to instead do this. So it only retrieves the current insurer state if we're actively managing that, which I'm actually surprised Puppet doesn't already do that. Like I would think this is the more correct behavior where we only manage things that you express in your manifest, right? But apparently Puppet has done this for a while, and he gives the author gives the example of a file resource where if you're only managing mode but you don't specify ensure, then you'll basically be trying to be managing mode on a non-existent file. Which I'm not sure that's actually the wrong thing, in the sense that if you want to ensure the file exists, you should manage ensure, now that I think about it. But I am concerned that Puppet has behaved this way for so long that there could be other custom types or custom providers that rely on that behavior. That's this new adder business of basically having a side effect of creating that an ensure property. Yeah.
I mean, this is supposed to be a performance tweak, right?
Yep.
I can remember making this discussion several years ago, actually, about this very issue.
Okay.
So, yeah, I spent some thoughts on that back in the day. I mean, random thing that occurs to me is that special handling for the ensure property is hardwired pretty deeply.
Mm-hmm.
I think even the resource harness for the transaction has some special handling for ensure.
Yes. Yeah, if you're creating the resource, for example, it will only emit events that say the resource was created.
Yeah.
But it won't walk all the other properties to make sure those are in sync, assuming that the provider handles all that at the time it creates the resource.
Yeah, the ensure property is expected to handle all other properties of the thing that it creates or removes.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps it was in that context that I visited this, because there's one long-standing bug where this is problematic. The way of reporting, and people wanted better reporting one way or the other, but that was difficult. So yeah, this thing. I mean, the point about the file, I think, is valid, because Puppet will happily manage all the different properties of a file and not care about the ensure state. But it will always retrieve this state. That I'm pretty sure of. Oh, no, I'm actually not sure, but I would assume so. There's really no reason for Puppet to ignore whether it's handling a directory or a symlink, or if the file is actually absent.
You're saying there's no reason to ignore it because it needs that information?
It might need it. I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
But I do recall that, I mean, for most resources, this is of no consequence. But for services, it can be costly to walk the whole list of services that are registered in a system and check their status, because some init script stuff have pretty involved methods of determining the current status.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious what the previous conversations were about also, um, to see if there were any conclusions about what was discussed last time. Do you have any idea, Felix, if this was a red mine kind of thing, or was it a um, Jira?
I believe it didn't make it to any trigger.
Okay.
I'll check old dev mails.
Okay. All right. So I'll put that. Yeah. So one thing I was also thinking is, if we were to allow this behavior in a, if we wanted to allow this behavior, I think we'd want to change the type to allow that to be easily overridden in a type, in a subclass, instead of forcing service to copy and paste the implementation of the superclass. Yeah, but I just kind of, I don't know, need to look at this some more and try and understand what the effects would be.
Yeah, we had some thoughts in this direction, I think. I dropped the link to a thread in the chat.
Oh, great. All right.
Oh, it's a long one. Oh, hey, and the last message is mine. What do you know?
Nice.
Hey, and I got a branch of my own. Oh, man.
You've already fixed this.
Yeah. Oh, my God. And yes, I did just that. I touched the type class. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, yeah. Oh, and should, right. So only do new adder if you're wanting to manage that property. All right.
Hmm.
Oh, interesting. So Andy, John, Eric, Felix. I'm going to have to dig through this one.
Yeah, it's pretty epic.
Was there? Oh, all right.
I mean, it started sometime in the 2.6 days, I think. Sparked some interest, but then
Yep.
trailed off into nothing.
All right.
So I'll just link this thread to the PR.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. So I'll take a look at that. All right. Okay, next one. Unless anything else before I move on? Nope. Okay. Next one is add show changes options to summary, PR 4039. So this adds the ability to summarize events and resource status events for different resource types that Puppet's managing. Let's see here. I haven't looked at this in detail, but just a high-level question is whether or not this should be done at this level, or if we should be leveraging the profiling system already built into Puppet for doing this kind of detailed analysis about what Puppet is applying and what is it spending its time doing. Though this one is actually just counting. It's not. There's no timing information. It's just the count of these types. And I'm actually kind of surprised. I thought Puppet already had a summary, like a last run summary that it, summarize. Kind of seems like we have two. This is adding a second setting, which is somewhere between summarize and show me the full report.
So it uses puts. That seems non-canonical to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this looks like it was just added for debugging purposes only. Hence the put, because it does that for summarize as well.
Yeah. So if assuming this information is useful, should it just go into summarize instead? Like, do we need another setting for this, or is it actually adding a bunch of information that defeats the purpose of a high-level summarize?
At face value, it looks like it should be merged in with the other summary to me.
I mean, I don't really understand, honestly. So, title, status, success, failure. I mean, that's the usual thing I get when I run the Puppet agent or Puppet apply. And each resource change or each property change gets a log output line. So what's the difference here? Does this happen on the node that receives the report?
No, on the configure, so it's on the either agent or apply. If you've specified -- show changes, it would spit it out to standard it out. So I was just looking at the report summary, which is what this line will do, right? It looks like it just sorts based on keys.
Oh, okay.
And I think this is time spent, the value that it associates.
Okay, so I'll assume that rather than the usual changed property X of resource Y from value A to value B, you just get there was a change to this property. That's it. It was successful.
Yeah. I was just running, this is kind of what it does now. Right, so right, so it's not telling you about individual. No, it does tell you notify. Time notify. But it doesn't tell you how many of these, it doesn't group them by resource type.
Yeah.
Let's see. Curious what this will do.
What?
That's less.
Okay. Yeah, that's more or less what I expected.
I was expecting a count. Oh, but maybe I only have one, so it doesn't show me count. That's
Probably works as designed. The variable naming.
Yeah, counting the number of occurrences for each value. So I assume if you had like 2 file resources, it would say like file type
What is NB in this code? It's hard to decipher.
Be that it's a good.
Like the error code or something.
But if you do 2A here, you get an array and you're doing collect on it, so I'd expect only a single value to be yielded.
Yeah.
I'm not sure this will ever execute. All right. All right, so kind of
So I'm not really sold, but I don't see a good reason to say it isn't useful. Or potentially so.
mm-hmm.
I mean, what I've been wondering before and wondering now is, is there an easy way to build a phase that basically is an alternative to, say, apply, but has some custom behavior? Like if I could inherit the apply application, do some things to that, because that would be neat. In that way, we could allow people to write modules that introduce slightly customized phases that do this kind of stunt. And we don't need to have this in the code base.
Yeah, I almost wonder if you could do that just by writing, writing an application to just process the report, right? Because you could then essentially pipe the report from the Puppet apply into this other thing that knows how to. And actually, I thought Ari had something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Come to think of it, you'd think there's this kind of stuff out there.
I remember seeing he wrote something about. Yeah. Yeah, I think, like you were saying, Felix, it'd be really helpful to see some output where this, some real world output where this information is useful, so we can decide whether or not this is something we'd actually want to bring into core or not.
I mean, sure, I can see how one might prefer this style of output to the usual full-blown report where each property gets its own long-winded message and is longer than a line on most terminals, etc. And where you prefer to have things succinctly together. Oh, Henrik has commented on the ticket. Okay, just on the naming of the switch. Sure.
On the show changes one?
Yeah. Apparently, it was in the original proof of concept. It was named dash dash changes, and
Ah. Okay. Was that one
Yeah.
that he closed? Oh, right. Oh, oh, got it. Yeah. I'm gonna look and see. I know that Ari wrote something like this. All right. Any other thoughts before? All right, this one is related. This is the add agent timing to report PR 4042. And this one does add timing information. Actually, the commit does have a good example, I think, of the. I thought I saw the output somewhere, but maybe not.
perhaps the ticket as well.
Ah, yes, of course.
That's a lot of code.
Right. So my main concern with this is that it's not using the profiling system that's built into Puppet for this. Like this is assuming a fixed format and that sort of thing. Seems like it would be useful to have Puppet be able to emit this so that you could write your own. You could analyze the data however you wanted to.
So why does retrieve catalog get a new option?
To know whether or not there's a report.
Oh, so information is returned through the object that is passed in there.
Yeah. Yeah, like all of this, we already do this kind of thing on the compiler side using all the built-in profiling. So the whole profiler logic. Yeah.
I mean, Thinmark on line 75
Hmm.
of the first patch. I thought Thinmark was about the built-in profiling stuff, right?
That's Ruby's profiler.
Oh, okay.
Right. Oh, Puppet Util. That's the old style. Yeah. So there's two different. Not to confuse anything. There's Puppet Util Thinmark, which wraps benchmark real time, which is Ruby's benchmark. But there's in the 3x time frame, Andy added the benchmark system, or sorry, the profiler. And then we wrapped all of the catalog compilation around that so that you can do things like this. You can get information on each of those stages. And I thought there was a way to filter what you're interested in. So like, not 100% sure on that, but seems like we shouldn't build yet another profiling system into Puppet.
The PR description speaks of HTTP pool metrics, used connections, cached connections, and yes, whatever more timings. So basically the agent retrieves timings from the master and then includes those in the report, yes.
Oh, these are the agent side HTTP pool metrics. So how many connections it reused during the agent run.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I'm just not sure so we're using the report because it sort of has some information in it, but I'm not sure those metrics belong in the report because I don't know that we send them. Oh no, we do. Metric name. I was thinking this was just an agent side thing. So you could not add it to the report and send all those metrics up to the server.
Sounds good to me. I mean, I'd be interested to learn whether the contributor has rolled this into production and has reporting on this kind of information.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see how this could be immensely useful. But not a fan of the current implementation.
What was the last part you were saying, Felix? about getting information? Like, well,
Yes, I think that's useful information if that becomes available. But the implementation seems a little hackish.
all right.
But then, sure, what are you gonna do? I mean, the retrieve catalog could return a more useful value instead of writing to a hash that is passed in. But yeah.
Yeah, and the profiler system avoids that issue because I believe it adds a profiler essentially that is pushed onto the context system. So there's a certain profiler that's been enabled. And so these, Puppet util profiler profile commands use whatever profiler has been configured, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of passing through the report into these methods, right, and then having them manipulate the report as it goes along.
But then that required us to add quite some instrumentation to some pieces of the code, right?
It's basically what this is doing here, this thin mark. So instead of doing thin mark, you do, this kind of thing.
Okay.
You just wrap that call in a profile statement, and then it gets, it's a certain label, and that there's some different ways of aggregating the data at the end based on the type of profiler that you're using, for example. So, yeah. Count profiler, wall clock profiler. Thoughts? Merge it.
You're not in that good a mood.
Merge all the things.
Yeah.
I guess my two concerns are, one, seems like we should be leveraging the existing profiler system. The second one is, what are the implications of adding this data to the report? I assume that won't break existing consumers of the report.
I mean, the report is just one giant hash, right?
Yeah.
So meh. It's the worst that can happen.
We'll comment on the ticket about that. All right. Just a couple more. Next one is make Puppet agent arg error instead of silently running catalog, PR 4043. And this one, I forget, Peter, we were talking about this yesterday with Michael, and I don't remember what the conclusion was.
I mean, I think that the change makes sense. I don't like having a method called parse args that does nothing but just validate the args is empty. That could certainly be just a one-liner inside of setup.
Right. And is it, I don't understand how this works. Like, does this mean if you were specifying an argument now, like let's say you're specifying a dash dash something that maybe the agent doesn't know about, will it now fail hard as a result of this?
I think that's only for non options. So, Puppet Agent foo.
Okay.
I think the dash dash stuff is handled before that during configuration.
Mm-hmm. And then stripped out of the command line args.
Perhaps.
I think that's the case. Any option that isn't known to the application, I think, is handled before this.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, I think if this was just a one-line raise argument error in setup rather than having this new method called parse args, I think it'd be fine.
Okay.
This would obviously break anybody unfortunate enough to have a Puppet agent command in some script somewhere that they are passing a non-option to the application, and it just happens to work right now.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine if you had some kind of script that blindly forwarded arguments, right? Not aware that it's actually passing things that agent doesn't recognize. Obviously it shouldn't be doing that, but maybe it doesn't know what arguments it should be forwarding.
I'm personally for better command line validation. I don't like it when tools work when you can just pass them any old thing. That's not good.
Yeah.
So should we rather have a flag for each application to specify whether non-option arguments are even allowed, even valid?
Well, I think it all, like other applications already do this. Right, certain things expect arguments, arbitrary arguments. Right.
Yeah.
But right. Looking for a manifest called food bar. Great. Great. That's the other one. Oh, I bet it didn't. Yeah, that's great. All right, so Peter, do you want to comment on that, just about fixing up the PR?
Sure. I'm trying to just find another place where we do a similar check or need a similar raise if we're missing one. But,
Right.
yeah, I can post that out.
I'm pretty sure we don't, and I'm not sure, but I have the feeling. And if this is something that could be an issue for other phases, then I'd hate to replicate this pattern all over the place. But on the other hand, as long as we don't see a need to fix this for any other phase, then, well, might just go ahead.
Yeah, that would be one argument for having parse args or the equivalent be in application, so that individual applications could override it and add, certain validation.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah, that would be the simplest thing to do, right? So that by default, it would just throw the exception.
I'm not sure. It's hard because certain applications take arbitrary arguments.
Yeah, they should do this via this hook then, right? If it becomes a hook at this point.
Yeah.
But then this would basically boil down to any phase that wants to accept arguments will override this method to not raise the exception and perhaps do little else, because the handling of the arguments is already implemented somewhere else. And then again, this is just an idiom for saying, well, we got this flag that you can override.
Yeah. The setup method itself is already one of these application lifecycle methods.
Yeah.
So it's kind of already set up for that purpose. And if, so we could leave the default as it is, which is we're lenient about what we accept. But an application like agent could say, actually, I know I don't take any arguments.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, what's the more common behavior?
Yeah, that's one question. The other is, off the top of my head, I cannot really think of another phase that is as dangerous in this scenario.
Yeah.
Because the agent will do a very well-defined thing if there's no argument. And most other phases will just make no sense, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I'd be fine with just having this be the agent, is more defensive about what it accepts.
Yeah.
Okay, so Peter, I have you down for commenting on that PR.
Okay.
And last one is AIX. User attributes should be uppercase. Not sure I transcribed that right. It says that, but I think the issue is that it does a case-sensitive comparison, and it fails. Yeah, so the provider thinks the thing is missing every run. So just kind of a note bookkeeping thing. Need a ticket on this one. And could use a test. Now, is that safe to do always? I don't know anything about AIX. Are there some user attributes that could be case sensitive, like password, hash, maybe? Hopefully not. Groups, comment, shell. The AIX provider for the user type allows you to specify this arbitrary list of key value pairs that get passed through. It's kind of like install options for the user type. So I have no idea, it's kind of a, not something that Puppet could validate.
I think Puppet should only downcase things that really are expected to be case insensitive on the system under management. So where we can safely downcase in order to arrive at a canonical representation of things. But when the case is preserved by the tooling underneath Puppet, then it's unsafe to do any transformation of that sort, I think.
I agree with you. Unfortunately, Puppet doesn't know what these key value pairs are. It's just opaque data to Puppet.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you could add that functionality in. I just have no idea what
Okay.
would be appropriate to add.
Yeah, so this is a very broad utility function, right?
Yeah.
Dreamy.
This is, yeah.
So basically this could have all sorts of consequences.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that Puppet doesn't know what, it maps these attributes like from the remote system to the local system and maintains this mapping, but from Puppet's perspective, these are just opaque key value pairs, just like install options are for packages.
Yeah. But it is used in exactly one place, so gives you reason to hope. Oh, but then that's the same file. Dun, dun, dun. So from where is that called? Parse command output. Okay. Going down the AIX rabbit hole. Oh my god.
That doesn't sound good. I think the AIX object is used for both the user and group AIX providers.
So apparently this is always called from the method getInfo from the same provider class, and that is used everywhere. But it seems straightforward enough. Yeah, so I think any provider that is based on this class could have something else feeding these values to Puppet. So you never know what you get. So I think the provider class should also have a way to configure this behavior, this downcasing behavior.
I'm trying to understand why I have that change. Oh, he's removing the down case.
Yeah.
Sorry, wait, what? So that seems... The original case. Oh, okay. Sorry, I was going the opposite direction. So this is the case where Puppet is writing it out as down case, right? And then it...
I think this is a method used during reading the output from commands. This is not some kind of munging that is going on.
Okay. Right. Parse. List. Okay, parse command output. Okay. So it's just the comparison, right? Or it reads it in an uppercase value, downcases it, compares the downcase value it read in against the manifest, says, oh, they're out of date, and reruns it. But it doesn't actually write out a lowercase value. Okay. And so, but that does introduce the possibility that something that was being compared, that was being specified in a manifest as downcase, was relying on Puppet downcasing those things. Right. So now,
yeah,
it's the more correct behavior, but you could get unexpected Puppet runs until you update your manifest.
I mean, this is very interesting. Interesting that this happens at the provider level. Usually the type is responsible for all the munging and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because that is where we abstract from these things. But if the provider on its own does a downcasing of data, then basically the provider is lying to Puppet.
Yes, it is.
Question is, why was that ever introduced?
That's a good question. Yeah, that seems like it could have been done on purpose first.
Ugh. The history on this code is not very easy to follow.
Yeah.
Well, I have so I have found a commit that did introduce this, but I don't think there's much in the way of explanation. Commit message is just use native commands to manage users and groups. Refactorize the AX object RB to allow new providers using commands with colon-separated output. And somehow it was at that point that this downcase appeared. Or is this another one? Oh, this might be another one. But there might be a lesson in there.
Yeah. All right.
This is code from 2010. I mean, we might try and raise the original author for comment.
Mm-hmm.
But perhaps the contributor has some insight of their own.
Okay. The last issues here, the RCNG service provider, we still need the type to be confined to the net BSD cargo platform. Waiting on that from, I think it's Jasper. The other one, file mode retrieved by static compiler, should be stringified, PR 4052. That is, there's an existing test here that is supposed to be validating that, but it's the expectation is in each block, and the catalog is empty, so the expectation is never called. So I pinged him about updating the test for that. And finally, there's Josh Hublett had the version compare function, converting that to 4x, but that would introduce an incompatibility where if any 3x functions were calling that function, they would no longer be able to. So the recommendation is to keep the 3x function, but add a 4x function version. And that's it. One last thing, Felix, we merged both of the, and maybe we already mentioned this at the top, but we merged both of the dependent PRs for PUP 1072.
Yeah.
So ping me.
He's already pushed a rebase, so.
Oh, you're already there. All right.
I stealthily
Making good use of time. Okay.
inserted one.
Cool. I will take a look at that. And I think Peter was going to also. So. All right. Anything else?
I wanted to mention I merged most of Jasper's PRs against Factor for
Right.
OpenBSD. So
Okay.
there's just one more I need to sync with Michael about, but that should be it for community PRs for Factor.
Awesome. See, that was easy. All right. I'll put this in the merge bucket.
Yeah, it's the precompiled headers one. We're still, we might just disable those entirely since they cause so many problems on various things.
All right.
Just checking why AppWare is throwing another tantrum.
So if it's the Windows, yeah, app there, FFI published a 199 gem that segfaults on Ruby.
Ah,
It's reading from memory off of the stack. And so we're trying to get the author to yank the gem. And there's a PR up to revert part of the change that introduced that problem. But unfortunately, it seems like whoever merged it went on vacation and hasn't replied at all, which is awesome.
yeah.
After merging and releasing the gem on Friday, which was great. So, yeah.
That's worthy of internet fame.
Yeah. Funny thing is, we were just talking about doing a Puppet Agent release on Friday on the same day and decided not to, so we released on Thursday night instead. So, all right.
I mean, yeah, but then, yeah. No, yeah, that's right.
All right. So I think that's it for Triage, unless you have anything else.
Yeah.
Thanks, Felix.
All right. Appreciate it, Felix.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Talk to you next week.
I hope so.
All right.
See
Bye.
ya.